everyone, welcome to another video. And for this month's video, I thought it would be interesting to briefly touch upon my personal best and my personal worst movie of 2017. Now, I know that my opinion is definitely going to be limited because obviously I'm one person and I can't see all of the movies that have come out over this past year in theaters. Um, and there's still a lot that I still kind of want to see but didn't get a chance to see over the year. But I would say, though, overall, as far as an impression of 2017 when it came to movies in particular, I thought it was a pretty poor year. It wasn't, I guess I would say it doesn't seem like it gets worse every year, but it seems to kind of stagnate as far as the quality is concerned, at least in my opinion. It kind of just has been leveling off over the years as to where we sort of, at least I think, come to expect the fact that most of what Hollywood is making now, not the majority, or not everything, but a good chunk of what comes out, unfortunately, is pretty low bar. And I think this could be due to a variety of different factors, but that's a completely different subject altogether. So, let's kind of dive into this. And I thought this would be appropriate since we're approaching the end of the year and the holiday season to kind of touch upon this subject. Since I kind of didn't really touch upon a lot of the newer movies, at least the ones that I found to be interesting and the ones that I found to be horribly bad. In this case, we're just talking about the two, the best and the worst. So let's start off with the best. Now, the best film that I think I saw in theaters this year that I thought was really impressive for what it was and was so simple at the same time that it really brings me back to that older style of filmmaking where things are portrayed, I think, in a more realistic light and things are kind of not focused on the spectacle all that much, like trying to create all of these big explosions or trying to create all these great effects. It's just very straightforward and kind of follows a interesting and unique story. So this one in particular, I thought, did a very good job in putting itself in that category. And that film is The Disaster Artist. So some of you may or may not have heard of this film. I think more people understand this film if you've seen the movie that this movie is based off of. But largely it follows a biography. And it kind of, at least from a film standpoint, follows that kind of style to a T because it doesn't really have sort of a flow or a structure like a traditional film does. And I kind of appreciated that because a lot of films nowadays feel like they have to follow a certain formula and meet these specific criteria, X, Y, and Z. But I like how with this film it feels a lot more like down to earth in real life. But basically, this movie follows the story of a sort of friendship that, again, did take place in real life because it is based off of a biography book that one of the characters within the film actually wrote. So without further ado, the best way I can explain this movie is that it is taking this biography and really emphasizing the relationship that exists within the biography. And the biography is about one of the worst movies that has probably ever been made. And if you've not seen the worst possible movie ever made, I suggest that you watch it. It is titled The Room. And the film here really touches upon a lot of what happens within the room. Um, but the main focus is really the relationship between these two main characters. Now, the two main characters in this story are Greg and Tommy. Um, Greg is a sort of want to be actor, like he wants to succeed in doing that art form, and he's kind of going through life sort of struggling to pursue that dream because that dream is so very difficult. And I really like how the film emphasized the level of difficulty it is for people, I think, in general, to do acting as a career, because it's something that's sort of a one in a million type thing, kind of similar to athletes. They're sort of one in a million. This one person just came along and just outsmoked everyone, or just made so much more money than everyone. It's one of those perfect kinds of professions. So it's definitely something that's a very difficult industry to break into and really really succeed at it. And especially with acting, just being at the right place at the right time, is kind of one of those things that you sort of see ends up kind of happening within this film, ironically. But you really see, in particular, Greg and Tommy struggle in trying to be actors and trying to be in that role. And they sort of develop a friendship because of that uh, passion that they both have for acting and for filmmaking and for art. So you sort of see that relationship start from the beginning. And eventually, what ends up happening is Tommy offers Greg the potential to move to Hollywood with him and basically pursue out this dream. Um, and again, you see the trials and tribulations of that. Um, and that's sort of the first kind of act, I would say, of the movie, is just them kind of discovering each other, them kind of developing this quasi funny, goofy relationship, and then them moving to Hollywood. And I would say the second act sort of comes in when Tommy gets this idea to make The Room, because he's been rejected so many times, and they really do emphasize the fact that Tommy he's a very interesting person. Like, he's not the typical kind of everyday guy, um, but apparently he's supposed to be from New Orleans. And they really emphasize how Greg is sort of kind of the opposite, in that he's very kind of just normal. And just to see these two work off of each other is really entertaining, I think, to watch. And you sort of see how you feel that Greg is kind of obligated to Tommy, because Greg was given like this opportunity to make it in Hollywood by actually getting a place to stay that was provided to him by Tommy. And you sort of see why he has sort of this strange attachment to him, because they share this joy for acting and for filmmaking, and he also has given Greg this opportunity, and in return, Greg's sort of like given him this friendship. And you could sort of tell that Tommy, I think, has maybe that difficulty, since he is so out there and strange, and very he's not really the kind of person that you would expect to really have this repertoire of people around him, because he's hard to, I guess, really wrap your brain around, because he is so bizarre and strange sometimes. And I really like how the movie emphasizes these aspects of these characters, and really dives into that element. Um, and when Tommy finally decides to make his own film and sort of go rogue, so to speak, and not go through Hollywood anymore, because Hollywood basically said, no way, I'm sorry, you can't act. It's just not meant for you. He just, kind of just does a sort of FU and just decides to do his own thing. And I find that to be hilarious. And, you know, it just leads to so much antics um, that it's very entertaining and engaging to watch. So he tries to make this film The Room. And he basically writes out the whole script pretty much. And they sort of showed that within sequence. And he gets his friend Greg to star in this movie. And you sort of see how Greg is really trying to take still the Hollywood route because he wants to like get something going for him. And you sort of see how that conflicts with Tommy's overall vision because Tommy is really kind of anti-Hollywood because he sort of went rogue and decided to make his own movie. Um, and you sort of see too like how mysterious Tommy is as far as the whole movie making process because we don't really know how he's funding the money and you know he gets all of these people to do all the scenes and the makeup and everything for him and you know you see how he like conflicts with all of these people because these people don't really understand his vision or understand like what he's trying to do with this movie because it is a pretty poorly made movie. So you just see all of that within the second act, and as a moviegoer, as someone who likes to see the behind the scenes stuff, this makes it all the more entertaining and engaging. And you sort of see how Greg, on the one hand, feels a little bit obligated to do it because Tommy's putting in money and people are getting paid to do it. And, you know, Greg's not been able to really plant his feet, so to speak, yet. And you kind of see how, you know, their careers and their relationships and their personalities kind of clash at times, and how at times, you know, you see Greg trying to be very supportive of Tommy. Um, but they do try to make Tommy have a little bit more of a sense of humanity to him. Um, and you kind of see, like, you know, sort of why he kind of um, behaves the way he does, but just in a way that's kind of, I guess, non-traditional to what people would come to expect. And I think that's also something that makes the movie really engaging to watch. Um, and I think all the performances overall, I think, portray the actual people in real life, which I think is also great. Like James Franco's performance as Tommy is fantastic. Knocks it out of the park, and I kind of hope that this movie wins some awards because I kind of want it to troll all of the other like mainstream Hollywood type esque movies. Um, and you know, because the movie is kind of in and of itself sort of anti Hollywood because of the whole story that it's sort of based around. Um, so uh, it's definitely one of those films that I can understand that some people don't get and some people don't really like because it doesn't follow the traditional kind of three act structure. It doesn't really try to bring you big surprises or like overall shock value, give you a shock value, so to speak. But what I really appreciated and I thought was really simple is, you know, just straight up tell just a simple story. Just, you know, it can be something about real life and you can make it engaging and interesting. And they made something that was about something that happened in real life. There was a guy named Tommy and there was a guy named Greg, and they made this movie, and it was a really bad movie, but it was a really entertainingly bad movie. So people enjoyed it, and, you know, and I think a lot of that has to do with passion. Like you have to be passionate about what you create, you know, with art. And I feel like that's what's really lacking in Hollywood nowadays because a lot of it is about the money. It's just about following the focus groups and okay, what are we gonna do this time? And what I like about this is that it takes all that and says, nope, we are just straight up making a movie about something that happened in real life that has to do with Hollywood and that has to do with actors and has to do with the whole scene. And I found that to be a great detour from all of the schlock that I've had to go through this year as far as seeing trailers and seeing things within films. So I really appreciated this one. It's funny, it's heartwarming, it's sad at times even too. Like you feel bad for Tommy because you know you want to kind of see him succeed. But then when people are laughing at him, you know, you feel bad for him because it's like, oh, it's, you know, what he made is just so awful. But then, you know, you see how people really enjoyed it because there was passion put into it, and that's what Tommy did, and that's why he nailed it. Even though it was a really terrible movie, he still got it. He still got filmmaking right in that sense, and that's what I think makes this film so endearing and so fun and engaging to watch for me. I think it's definitely a lot funnier if you actually seen The Room and seen the movie because there is a lot of references to what happens within the film. And I think people would have a difficult time understanding that if they didn't see the film, The Room, the movie that this film is trying to base itself off of. And again, and it's not only that too, it's kind of also the way in which it tells itself. You kind of see how the biography kind of unveils itself because this biography was actually written by Greg, the other person um, that's that was really involved in making this really terrible movie. And I've seen interviews with him too, and he just seems like so relaxed and so um, just chill about everything. And it's kind of great to just see an average person be a part of something that became sort of something significant. Um, and it was funny because even Tommy himself, the actual Tommy, was convinced that this movie or the movie that he made, The Room, would win some kind of award or Academy Award. So he tried to keep it in theaters, you know, for however long. And it's just so, it's just, there's just something about how down to earth and like how crazy this movie is that it's just very endearing to me. Um, and I understand if people have different feelings. I know there's probably some people who didn't particularly care for this film, but for my money, I thought that that was the most enjoyable time that I had because I experienced tons of different emotions, and at the same time, I got something out of it that, you know, a lot of films I think really fail to do nowadays. Um, and all around, I think it was fantastic. So yeah, that was really my best movie for 2017. Now off to the worst one. Oh, oh yeah, the worst one. Oh, this is gonna be painful. Only because I had a feeling it was gonna be bad going into it. And what sucks is it's based around the time of Christmas. And I really love the older Christmas movies that were wholesome and enduring and nice and interesting and creative. And then now, I think it's almost like 2000 on, there's been nothing but schlock Christmas movies. And it's so sad. It's so sad to see like the holiday of Christmas kind of be tarnished by these horrible Christmas movies. And I felt so bad like watching this. I'm just like, it's Christmas. Why? Why did they have to make it centered around Christmas time? And why? And that film is Daddy's Home too. Yeah, they made a sequel to this one. Um, and yes, I did see the first one, but not in theaters, obviously. And to be honest, I understand the first one was not great at all. I understand that it has the dumb humor that we expect from Will Ferrell films nowadays. And I say Will Ferrell because he is in that movie and he's also in this movie. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe it won't be as horrible as I think it is going to be. And I almost got kind of coerced into going. Like, my husband really wanted to go and see Daddy's Home too. I'm not kidding you. And I was like, this is going to be bad, sweetie. They're going to dumb down all the humor. There's not going to be anything like remotely fun or endearing. It's not going to be like the first movie where, there's at least a sense of self-awareness, and they do try to make certain dumb things funny, and it works for what it is. This is gonna be another level. You're in sequel territory here. They're trying to rank it in. Hollywood's trying to rank it in. It's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good, and it was awful. It was everything about this movie. Where to begin? Okay, you know how within the first movie it's kind of easier to follow because we have two dads. Okay, we have the actual dad and then we have the stepdad. Mark Wahlberg plays the real dad. Will Ferrell plays the stepdad. And all the funny antics that come with those two having to kind of compete for the kids and for the attention and the workload and, just all of that stuff plays into this first movie. So it's pretty streamlined. It's kind of straightforward. This one just ups the ante, and I mean, it's just ridiculous. We now have John Cena. We now have Mel Gibson. We now have the other guy that I think played Lord Farquaad, and I always forget his name. We have those people all crammed into this movie trying to make you laugh, and none of them succeed. It's so disappointing. Like, just anything to make me laugh is just completely scrapped. Like, there's only chuckles within this movie. And what made me mad too is in the first movie they had a cameo of Bill Burr, the comedian, one of my all-time favorite comedians. And at least in the first movie, they do some kind of setup with him and his kid and then Mark Wahlberg's kids. In the second one, he just gets one line, one funny line, and that's it. He doesn't get anything else. No funny, like, little lead up in jokes or nothing. He's just there for 10 seconds and then goes to grab his check. It's really sad. I'm just like, why did you do this to me, movie? Why did you do this to me? Bill Burr is funny. Please keep him in this movie. Why? And they're just like, nope, not gonna keep him in this movie. Oh God, where to begin? Okay, so the plot of this movie is ridiculous. So not only do you have all those characters that I mentioned shoved in, they're all together at the same time. And they decide that, okay, since our family is it's got so many moving parts to it now, and it's hard because, you want to spend time with this side of the family, you want to spend time with that side of the family. They decide, hey, let's just cram all of us into this Airbnb thing that Mel Gibson booked, and let's just try to put up some comedy. And they don't. They don't. The comedy is just so bad. There's a scene with the thermostat that goes on for way too long, and just the way that the characters behave, like, they take what was decently passable within the first movie and they scrap all of that and make the characters even more annoying and more obnoxious, and they force plot lines in that are stupid and don't make any sense. And oh man, and just the way everything is dealt out in this movie with this plot, with this setup of just putting in all these characters in together is just unbelievably stupid. Oh man, it is so bad. Oh man. Um, so you could probably guess that Mark Wahlberg's dad is Mel Gibson, and the other guy who plays Lord Farquaad and can never remember his name is Will Ferrell's dad. Um, and just the way they all interact with each other and just the way they approach every joke and every setup and every dumb scenario that comes across, you're just like, this is so unrelatable and it's so annoying and you're trying to laugh, you're trying to find something within the movie to laugh at least that's the impression I had. And everybody in that theater was like trying to find that too, I think. Everybody was like, yeah, that's funny. Is it? Oh my god. And Lily, my husband, he like literally turns to me and I'm just like sitting watching this movie and he's like, yeah, this movie's bad. Oh, it was so entertaining. I was like, I told you it was gonna be awful. And it was. It was so awful. Oh man. And you know that Bono song that they play around Christmas time? You know, like about the kids in Africa and stuff. I can't remember for the life of me the name of the song. And it goes, do they know it's Christmas time at all? There's a really stupid scene that goes on for way too long that involves that song, and it completely ruined the song for me. Just like, I can't hear that song anymore now because I'll think of how awful this movie was. Oh my, and just the character interactions and the jokes that they try to make and it's just poorly thought out. Like, it takes everything that was simple and stupid about the first movie and it sets the bar so much lower that you just think like, how low can it go? And it just keeps going. It's unbelievable. And the hilarious thing is they try to reference this movie within the film that doesn't actually exist, but you almost would rather watch that movie than watch the movie you're watching because they end up getting stuck in this movie theater, all of them, and because of a snowstorm. And the movie that's playing is called Mistletoe, starring Liam Neeson, who I guess has a something dealing with an act. It's supposed to be some dumb action movie, and you just go, I would rather watch that because at least that would be so stupidly entertaining. Like, this just tries to throw stuff at you to make you laugh, but then it doesn't. Like, it's like trying to make spaghetti stick to the wall and it never sticks. It just doesn't. They just keep throwing it at you and it's just like, no, it didn't work that time. No, that's not funny. That's not funny. Please stop. Oh God, please stop. Please don't make me do this. Oh man, it was bad. It was horrible. It was the worst movie of 2017 in my honest and humblest of opinion. I mean, I I really wanted to give it a chance, but didn't do anything. Did not, like, just a little bit of chuckles here and there. And I'm trying to laugh, but I can't because the jokes just don't, like, they just don't add up to anything usually. And you feel like a lot of it is really forced because of the way in which these characters are set up and their relationships to the kids. You feel like, God, this is just such an uncomfortable experience. Like, it's not like one of those wholesome family Christmas movies. Um, it's one of those it's one of those really dumb Christmas movies that tries to get the emotional connection with the characters but fails to do so because the whole situation and the whole setup is just so uncomfortable, so bizarre, and so unbelievably ridiculous that it just doesn't add up to anything. And just and I knew that they were gonna do that because that's what a lot of the times sequels nowadays try to do is they take something that was decent, not great, but at least had some stuff going for it and extend it out and then make that seem like it's much more bigger and grander and therefore get more of a reaction out of the audience. And usually I think that works to the film's disadvantage. Now, you can add a lot more to a story, but it's kind of how you add it in that makes, I think, all the difference. And the way in which they try to shove in all of these characters at you, and they try to shove in these really elongated jokes that don't amount to anything. Like, why is thermostat changing funny? Like, I don't understand it. Like, this one of the girls keeps changing the thermostat, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's so hot in here. Turn down the thermostat. We're all gonna die." All the old people. And it's just like, oh God. And then she just keeps changing it back, and it's it goes on forever. And there's this really, 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 oh my, this moment is really stupid. So they want to get a Christmas tree, okay? So, but where they're at is kind of like a ski lodge resort area place. So it's really all basically state land, pretty much. Like, or even private property in some cases. So you really can't go out and get a Christmas tree in the forest. You're not allowed to do that. But these idiots decide to do it anyway. And what ends up happening is one of them mistakes a Christmas tree for I think it's supposed to be some kind of satellite tower. Yeah, and he cuts down the satellite tower, and they end up using the satellite tower as their Christmas tree. And they end up having to call I think it was the phone service or the cable company or whoever's tower they knocked down, and basically pay them however crazy amount of money just so that they can have this stupid looking tree. And it is dumb. Like, that is just so unbelievably ridiculously low. Like, it's setting the bar so low. So low as far as comedy. It's like, okay, we're just gonna take this scenario that somewhat could have been funny, but we'll make it not funny. And that's what this film ends up doing to me. It's just every scenario, every joke, everything is just so bizarrely uncomfortable, and at the same time it's trying to make you laugh, and then you can't laugh at it because it's just uncomfortable and bizarre and sometimes doesn't even make any sense. Or it's just like, oh man, really, we're really doing this, we're really gonna have them all have an argument here, and we're really gonna bring in this joke, and we're gonna bring in this joke. It's Oh man. Oh man. It was a it was a bad Christmas movie, to say the least. And just a bad movie in general, and I think probably one of the worst I've seen this year. But that's pretty much it. That's all I gotta really say about Daddy's Home 2. I mean, it's taking what was an okay premise with okay actors and putting them in and just having some little fun little laughs, and then that's the end. This one just takes it to a whole new level, and in doing so pretty much ruins the simplicity and the engagement of what the first movie gives you. And I'm not definitely not saying Daddy's Home was really a decent movie. I mean, it did have its problems, obviously, but the problems are definitely not as immense as Daddy's Home 2. So, yeah, so I think that's really all I can say as far as this movie is concerned. I really honestly don't know why they made a sequel to this. Like, I was even like, I didn't even really understand the point, but I guess it made a significant amount of change to promote a second movie. But I hope they they just X off any other potential Daddy's Home movies, because that one was hard to sit through. Like we were literally, I was kind of like asking for the time. Like I was just like thinking to myself, what point are we at in this movie? When is it gonna end? When can I leave? So, and on the one hand, I didn't want to walk out only because I wanted to see where it ultimately went, and it it did bring up some stuff that, oh, I wasn't expecting them to take the plot in this direction, but at the same time, again, it's nothing special, and just the setups and the way they approached everything, there was just a huge lack of effort and heart and just, oh, it, it's just, Christmas movies nowadays they just don't try. They just don't try. Please try. Please try Christmas movies. Please come back. Um, but yeah, I think that's really all I can say about it. I mean, it's just this Christmas vacation movie that tries to bring in a ton of characters and ton of actors and fails to produce anything of decent quality. And all of the setups and the jokes and everything just falls completely by the wayside. But I think that's really all I can say about my personal favorite as well as my least favorite films of the year. I'm more than happy to hear your guys's if you have a personal one. That's just from my experience so far, or with this film season. There's obviously films that I've wanted to see but didn't get a chance to see over this past year, but I definitely say it was a lackluster year. But The Disaster Artist, I thought, exceeded my expectations, and Daddy's Home 2 um, definitely was what I was expecting and much worse. But yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say, though. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And until next time, everybody, I will see you within the next year. Oh, before I go, I kind of wanted to touch upon like what topics I'm going to be talking about within the next year. So there's a little bit more of a structure as far as my videos are concerned. So you don't go, what is she going to talk about now? So 1 month I'm going to discuss a book. 1 month I'm going to discuss a TV show that's a comedy. 1 month I want to discuss something music related. 1 month I want to bring out a classic movie, an overrated and underrated movie for the other months, a random discussion of something, a TV show that's a drama. I think that would be interesting to touch upon. A new movie that I saw in theaters. I think it would be interesting to discuss some other topics that are more broad, like traveling, like different places that I've been and the experiences that I've had. I think that sort of helps people too, as far as like kind of reviewing whether or not they want to go to a certain destination. Um, and I love food, so maybe I'll discuss something that's food related. And then finally, also address something that's animated related and deals with animation and cartoon entertainment. But yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant, wonderful holiday, Christmas, New Year season, and I hope to see you all next year in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.